I saw millions of bodies. It wasn't war, it was sickness. A plague so terrible that it made everything before it look like a common cold. I saw the world paralyzed by terror, and before I saw the future, I saw the darkness. I felt the cold of hell seep into my bones. My name is Dr. Alexander. I was a man of science who didn't believe in God until my plane crashed, and I saw what is coming for us all. My hands used to be insured for $5 million. For 20 years, I was the god of the operating room in Manhattan. If I couldn't fix your brain, nobody could. I lived in a glass tower, looking down on the ants below. I didn't need faith. I had precision, I had science. To me, God was just a fairy tale for people who were afraid of the dark. I had everything, money, respect, power, but I was rotting inside. I hadn't spoken to my children in years. I was cold. I was efficient, and I was blind. I thought I controlled my destiny. But on January 14th, destiny came for me in a private plane over the mountains of Alaska. It was supposed to be a quick flight, just me and the pilot. The storm hit us out of nowhere, a wall of white violence. The turbulence slammed my head against the window. I remember looking at my Rolex, thinking this was just an inconvenience. I was arrogant until the very end. Then the alarm screamed, "Mayday, we are going down." The engine exploded. I saw flames. Gravity pulled my stomach into my throat. We were falling, spinning. The ground rushed up to meet US for the first time. I was helpless. No money could save me. Nitrogen monoxide science could stop gravity. Impact, darkness, pain. Then silence. I woke up in the wreckage. The pilot was dead. My legs were crushed. The snow was burying me alive. I tried to use logic. Stay awake, I told myself, but the cold didn't care about logic. It froze my blood. My heart slowed down. Thump, thump, silence. I expected fire and brimstone. I expected the medieval torture chambers I had mocked my entire life. But hell is not a furnace. It is something far worse. It is a prison of the mind. I found myself standing in a gray, endless fog that smelled of old dust and abandoned dreams. It was cold, but not a physical cold. It was a spiritual frost that burned the soul, freezing every happy memory I ever had. I looked around into the infinite mist and froze in terror. I was not alone here. There were millions of them. Millions of gray souls stretching out into the infinite darkness, as far as my eyes could see. They were standing right next to me, shoulder to shoulder, yet they were completely alone. Each one was locked in a transparent bubble of absolute, crushing depression. Their heads were bowed in shame. They were weeping, but no sound came out. I tried to scream, to touch the man next to me, to ask for help, but he didn't even see me. He was trapped in his own loop. I realized with horror that this was the ultimate punishment. We were a crowd of millions, yet we were in total, agonizing solitude. I tried to use my logic to explain it away. This is hypoxia, I told myself. My brain is dying in the snow, but the cold was too real. The despair was too heavy. It felt like lead chains wrapping around my chest, crushing my lungs. And then the torment began. Not demons with pitchforks, but shadows that knew my name. They emerged from the fog. Shadows danced around me, whispering secrets I had never told anyone. They knew my sins. They knew about the money I stole. They knew about the women. Suddenly, the gray fog shifted violently. I saw faces forming in the darkness. Faces I knew. Faces I had covered with white sheets in my operating room over the last 20 years. My former patients, the ones I couldn't save. The ones I saw as just broken machines. They weren't resting in peace. They were circling me, laughing. One of them, a young boy I failed to save in 2015, floated close to my face. His eyes were black voids of nothingness. He whispered with a voice that sounded like breaking bones. "You said there was no God, Dr. Alexander. You said science was the only truth. You said we were just biology rotting in the ground. Look around you now, Doctor. Is this biology? Is this science?" His laughter pierced my eardrums like a knife. They were mocking my arrogance. They were tearing me apart. Where is your precious science now? Prescribe you as a pill for this darkness. Cut the void with your scalpel. They screamed in unison. I fell to my knees in the invisible mud. I reached for my pockets, looking for my tools, but I had nothing. I had no scalpel. I had no money. I had no answers. My PhD meant nothing here. My reputation was dust. For the first time in my entire existence, I realized I was truly nothing. I was just another lost soul in the ocean of the damned. I curled up on the floor, waiting for the madness to consume me forever. The depression was unbearable. It was a physical weight, pressing me down deeper into the darkness. I knew I belonged here. I deserved this. I had played God, and now I was facing the reality of my pride. But then, in the middle of my absolute despair, something impossible happened. I remembered a name I hadn't spoken since Sunday school, a name my grandmother used to whisper when she prayed. I didn't have the strength to speak, so I screamed with my spirit. I screamed the name I had mocked 1,000 times, Jesus. The sound didn't echo, it exploded. Instantly, the gray fog ripped apart like paper. A beam of light, brighter than 1,000,000 suns, crashed down into the darkness. It didn't burn my eyes. It burned my heart. It was pure, raw energy. The shadows that were tormenting me screamed in terror and vanished instantly. They couldn't exist in the presence of this light. I felt a hand grab my soul. It pulled me out of the mud with infinite strength. We shot upwards faster than the speed of light. I saw the darkness falling away below me, shrinking into a tiny black dot. The cold vanished. In its place, a warmth wrapped around me, a warmth that felt like absolute love. It was the love of a father for a lost child, multiplied by infinity. I was weeping, not from fear anymore, but from relief. I was being carried home. I was safe. We stopped in a place that defies human language. It wasn't just clouds, it was a city built of living, breathing crystal. The light came from everywhere, pulsating with music. Yes, The colors had a sound, the gold hummed with majesty. The blue sang of peace. I stood there, dirty with the stains of my sins, trembling before this perfection. I expected a judge with a gavel. I expected punishment. Instead, I saw him. The being of light stood before me. He didn't have a human face, yet he was more human than anyone I had ever met. He was a blazing silhouette of compassion. He didn't speak with words. He spoke directly into my mind. He didn't ask, "Did you go to church?" or "How much money did you make?" He asked me the only question that matters, a question that shattered my soul into a million pieces. "Alexander, what did you do with the life I gave you? Did you learn to love?" Then the movie of my life began, but it wasn't on a screen. I was reliving it. I was back in 1985, a little boy stealing a toy. I felt my guilt, but I also felt the disappointment of my mother. I felt it inside me. Then I was in medical school, cheating on an exam. I felt the pride, the arrogance. Every secret I thought was buried was now exposed in this blinding light. There was nowhere to hide. I had to watch every mistake, every cruel word I ever spoke. The worst part was the hospital. I saw myself yelling at a nurse who had made a small mistake. In life, I felt powerful. But here, in the light, I felt what she felt. I felt her humiliation. I felt her go home and cry to her children because of me. I felt the pain I caused my wife when I lied to her. It hit me like a physical blow. I fell to my knees, sobbing. "Stop," I begged. "Please stop, I can't bear it." The pain of hurting others was worse than the fire of hell. I wanted to stay. I begged him to let me stay in the light. "Please," I cried, "don't send me back to the cold." The being of light looked at me with infinite sadness. "You must go back, Alexander. You must warn them. The storm is coming." Before I could ask what storm, the beautiful crystal city vanished. The music stopped. I was pulled into a vision of the future. I was floating above the earth, but it wasn't the earth I knew. I saw the year. I cannot say the date, but I knew it was soon. Maybe 5 years, maybe 10. It felt immediate. I saw a shadow spreading across the globe, starting in the east and moving west like a tidal wave of ink. It wasn't war. It was biology, a sickness. I am a doctor. I have seen every disease known to man, but I have never seen anything like this. It made COVID look like a gentle breeze. This was a hurricane of death. I drifted down into the streets of New York, London, Tokyo. They were silent. No cars, no people. Just a thick yellow fog that smelled of sulfur and decay. The silence was louder than any scream. I floated into a hospital, my hospital. It was a war zone. There were no beds left. The corridors were lined with black bags, thousands of them. I saw doctors, my colleagues, weeping on the floor, defeated by something their science couldn't touch. The virus, or whatever it was It didn't just kill the body, it attacked the mind. I saw people in the streets losing their sanity, attacking each other in a blind rage. It was like a rabies of the soul. Society had collapsed. There was no police, there was no government, just survival. I saw military tanks rolling down Fifth Avenue, but there was no one left to control. The dollar had collapsed. Gold was worthless. A bottle of water was worth more than a diamond. The being of light spoke to me again, his voice thundering over the burning cities. Mankind has built towers of pride, but they are built on sand. When the wind comes, the towers will fall. I watched the fires burn through the night. I felt the collective terror of billions of souls crying out to a God they had ignored for decades. It was the Great Reset, but not the one politicians talk about. It was the Great Leveling. I tried to look away, but I was forced to watch. I saw mass graves being dug in Central Park. I saw the power grids failing, plunging the world into a new, dark age. The message was clear. Science will not save you. Money will not save you. Your bunkers will not save you. The only safety was spiritual. And then, just as the vision became too much to bear, I felt a violent yank, like a hook in my navel. I was being pulled back. The return was not peaceful. It was violent. It felt like being sucked through a vacuum cleaner and slammed into a block of concrete. 1 second I was in the warm, singing light. The next, I was back in the freezing wreckage. The pain returned instantly, 1,000 times worse than before. My legs screamed. My lungs burned, but this time I wasn't cursing. I was whispering thank you. I felt the cold snow against my face and knew I had been sent back for a reason. I don't know how long I lay there, hours, days. Then I saw it, an orange light cutting through the storm, a noise like a beating heart a helicopter. I saw men descending on ropes. I tried to shout, but only a croak came out. A gloved hand grabbed my jacket. I heard a voice shout over the wind, "We have a survivor. He's alive." As they lifted me into the air, I looked down at the mountain one last time. I left my arrogance buried in that snow forever. Waking up in the hospital was harder than dying. The lights were too harsh. The noises were too sharp. I felt heavy, trapped in this meat suit we call the body. My colleagues' other doctors surrounded my bed. They told me it was a miracle I survived. They talked about hypothermia statistics and luck. I just smiled. I knew it wasn't luck. I looked past them to the corner of the room where my son was standing. He had been crying. The old Alexander would have criticized his hair or his clothes. The new Alexander just reached out a broken hand and held him. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry for everything." We cried together for hours. I sold the penthouse. I retired from surgery. I don't care about the insurance money or the prestige anymore. I spend my days preparing, not building bunkers, but building bridges with the people I love, because I know what is coming. The vision of the plague still haunts my nightmares. I can still smell the sulfur of the empty cities. I don't know exactly when it will start, but I know the signs. The world is getting colder. People are getting angrier. The shadow is growing. My time in the light taught me one thing. Death is not the end. It is a doorway. And what matters is not what you carry in your pockets when you go through it, but what you carry in your heart. Don't wait for the sky to turn black to hug your children. Don't wait for the hospitals to collapse to pray. The storm is coming, and science will not be an umbrella big enough to cover you. Build your spiritual armor now. Forgive your enemies. Love your family. Because when the darkness falls, and it will fall, the only light you will have is the light you have kindled inside yourself. My name is Dr. Alexander, and I have seen the truth. Thank you for listening to this testimony on the Afterlife Files. Do you believe Dr. Alexander's warning? Have you also seen the future in a dream or a near-death experience? We want to hear your story. Send your testimony to the email found in the description below. We read every single one. If this story touched you, please like and subscribe to help us share this message before it's too late. Stay safe. Watch the skies.